Let's find out just how good our dry mead turned out.
Now, we bottled this when it was 27 days old. And I know that because we just finished filming the bottling of it like 20 minutes ago. So I still remember. And it ended at 0.999 specific gravity. So it's very dry. And it has about a 12.5% ABV. So let me just do a little pour here.
But we know what you want. You want the pork yam.
All right. So we got our samples. First, color. It has a pretty color, but it's cloudy.
It's cloudy.
And it's not that cloudy like soup. It's not pea soup. I mean, you can totally see light through it. It's just got a little bit of a haze, is what I would call it.
Yeah, it's uniform too, so it almost looks like you're looking at it through a frosted glass rather than a murky beverage, if that makes any sense.
Now, there's many reasons why it could have a haze to it, and one of them is it's only 27 days old. Most of our meads, we let them go much longer before we bottle. This one we did a little quicker because we wanted to show the video, but it'll probably clear in the bottle over time, and that'll mean a little bit of sediment at the bottom of the bottles. That's part of why we usually let them sit a lot longer.
Yeah.
And that way we don't have that in the bottom of the bottle, and we have a clear product in the bottle.
As far as a little bit of lees settling out into your bottles, it really isn't that big of a deal.
It's going to happen
particularly
anyway.
If you know what it is, you shouldn't be freaked out about it. And the way to deal with that is just pour gently.
Yeah, pour really carefully. Bottles are actually designed for that on purpose, so that as it gets to about there, any liquid past that, very carefully, won't have the lees. The neck actually will catch
it'll trap
the
it
lees.
down here.
So bottles are designed for that purpose. But as far as clarity goes, in all honesty, it doesn't matter, okay? As long as it's not like drinking chunky soup or pea soup, it's not a problem.
Of course, that's left up to your personal preference.
Yeah.
And there's lots of things we could have done. We could have cold crashed this. Putting it in a refrigerator condenses the particle movement and facilitates a quicker...
Yeah, it can help it clear. But a lot of people get freaked out over non-clear brews, and it doesn't make them inferior.
Nope.
It just makes it where fermentation happened a little bit differently.
Yeah.
We don't normally see that with our brews. Usually they do come out pretty clear, but I'm not that offended when they don't come out clear. Okay. In the 1 year tasting, this will probably be crystal clear, though. Yeah. So it's all good.
We'll find out in a year.
Anyway, on the aroma, normally a very young mead will have what we call the footnote.
This one does not. It has a smidgen.
I mean, a tiny bit.
At the end, like once you've inhaled.
Which to me smells like grapefruit. I've said that before.
Yeah,
I haven't said it in a while. The footnote to me almost smells like grapefruit. And I get just a hint of it in this. Not very much at all. I definitely smell the honey.
Yeah.
That totally comes through, which is unusual at this age. Quite possibly this is drinking this way too young. Just so you know, this is like unheard of young to drink a dry mead. But yeah, on the aroma, I totally get a little bit, I get kind of a flowery, definitely floral. The honey is there. The characteristic is there. This is Bev's honey. So I know this is like wildflowers and things like that, Florida stuff.
Yeah.
And I know it's pretty much all natural. So she doesn't control what they eat so much. But they're well taken care of bees. I know that.
And it was really good honey. If you saw the making of this video, it was really good honey.
Yeah, normally something this young, I don't like smelling it this long. This is actually quite pleasant.
Quite pleasant, yeah.
I'm ready for a short sip. Are you ready for a short sip?
I'm ready for a short sip.
Now, the intention of the short sip is to just literally take a short sip, get some in your mouth, and swallow it down as quickly as possible. It's just to acclimate you to the flavors and alcohol level, which this isn't super high, but it's still enough that you need to acclimate to it. My first sip, I definitely got that little bit of a floral hit and the honey right up front. Slight bitterness, which I attribute to the footnote and being that it's fermented honey, just a little bit at the back end.
Which is interesting because I actually got citrus.
Oh. Okay, well, there was citrus peel in this. So I'm not surprised that you got some citrus. People have commented that we normally get different things, and we can almost convince each other that it's there. That's normal. That's the way it should work.
Yes.
If everybody tasted exactly the same thing and everything, it would be a very boring world, because your brains, your experiences are totally different from the person sitting next to you or across the world from you. So what your brain tells you you taste is different than what their brain tells them they taste.
If you enjoy whiskey, you will find this
Oh
in
yeah.
analyzing the flavors that you're getting from different whiskeys,
You will taste things
because
that were never there.
what is actually occurring is your brain is trying to find memories that it pairs with what
Right.
you're experiencing in that beverage. So it doesn't necessarily mean those memories, the items that are in those memories, are in this beverage. It's just the closest comparison your
Right.
brain can come up with. So Brian has consumed things that I have not, and vice versa. So
Right.
therefore, our memories are different, and we're going to connect them differently.
But that explains why everything tastes like chicken. It's your brain putting it to something that it can associate with to make it okay.
So if a person has never eaten chicken,
Then it wouldn't taste like chicken.
then
It would taste like whatever the chicken substitute they have eaten their whole life tastes like.
Alrighty. I think we've gone a little too far off the end there
Yeah,
with our
it's
tasting
okay
notes.
though. It's okay. They're good. They like this.
Okay.
So now it's time for the
Long
long sip.
sip!
Now in the long sip, you just put it in your mouth and you leave it there for a few seconds. Let it flow over your tongue, over all of your mouth, and that gives you a real indication of what the beverage tastes like. Wow. I would swear this was sweeter. Like, this does not taste like 0.999 to me.
Nope. It doesn't taste,
It's dry, but it doesn't taste that dry.
but it doesn't taste that ABV either.
No, it certainly doesn't.
It's very clean
Mm-hmm. It's
and
refreshing. And
refreshing.
crisp.
I can see this. I'm just gonna jump into pairing and without saying my tasting notes because that's where my brain's going. But I think this would be awesome with food because
Oh, yeah. Treat it like a white wine. Basically,
yes,
anything that you would drink white wine with, you can drink this with.
and it would work as a palate cleanser in between courses.
Mhm.
It's
But the finish
it's
is
very
actually
light.
kind of long. It's much longer than I would think.
Yeah.
And I'm getting a honey and a bitter note that's not unpleasant. I actually really like it as my finish that just kind of stays there. On the exhale, that's kind of what I'm getting, is a honey character with a little bit of a bitter note. So it balances it out. Really, really interesting.
Something that I found incredibly interesting, and this was an experience that Brian and I both shared during our finishing video for the dry mead, was that it was still definitely honey, just without the sweetness.
Yeah.
And I never anticipated that you would get a honey note without sweetness.
Right. We've made dry mead before that was unpalatable. We didn't actually like it at all until it was like a year old.
Now, it could be simply because of the quality of honey we used in this dry wine.
I think that's a big part of
that kept those honey notes while we fermented out the sugars from the honey. But it's really nice. It's very pleasant. It's not overly complicated.
No.
But it has those honey notes with a real clean, crisp.
Mm-hmm. Well, this was meant to be a very
experience.
simple mead.
Yeah.
And something that a first timer could make that would be enjoyable still. Because there's a lot of beginner and first timer stuff out there that really isn't all that great. So I wanted to make something really easy that you could literally make with stuff that you buy at the grocery store and is ready to drink in a month. And this actually is. This works really, really well. And I'm really happy with it. As far as cooking with it, though, I mean, this pairs, like I said, with anything that you would drink white wine with. We're just going to leave it at that because the list is endless.
Yeah.
Would I cook with this? Absolutely. Yes. Again, anytime you'd add white wine to glazing pans and sauces and gravies, whatever you want to do as a marinade, this would be wonderful. It's going to work really, really well. Would I pour this in a glass and drink it? Yeah. Definitely. This is definitely a drinker. This is something that you would want to sip over time. Works really, really well. It's numbers time.
Now this is going to be particularly hard for me, number-wise, because it's really good, yet it's really simple. And I am a huge fan of layers. Anything that has
Right.
layers makes me happy. And so because
Well,
this is it's not a one note. Don't get
no,
me
it's
that
definitely
wrong.
not.
Don't yeah.
I do get the citrus now, by the way. I didn't at first, but now I do.
It's a few notes, like 3,
Well,
4 notes.
the way I'm judging this for a number is this is intended to be a simple, dry mead. Taken from that perspective, just a simple, dry mead, how good is it with 1 being probably toxic and don't give it to anybody, 5 being, yeah, I would drink that. Probably not the first thing I'd reach for, but I would totally drink it. And 10 being, in its form, for what it was made for, can it be improved?
Well, that's going to be difficult for me to answer because we are relatively new into the realm of purposely creating dry beverages.
Yeah, we normally make them sweeter. And we thought about sweetening this, but it's meant to be dry. So
right.
That's why we left it.
And we're enjoying it in its dry form. We purposely set out to make a dry mead, and we haven't done that in the past. So how do I compare this? How do I improve this? How do I analyze this? And I don't really have an answer for that. Now, based on what Brian was suggesting on how to judge it, I actually have a much higher number than what I would normally do based on just my enjoyment of the beverage, if that makes sense. Because I am still more partial to sweeter and fruitier things, where this is more light and
it tastes more like a hydromel to me.
Yes, it does. And that could be dangerous because the ABV says this is not a hydromel. And enjoying a nice dinner, particularly if it has multiple courses and you're taking your time and you're sipping this throughout the meal, and you had a little before and you have some more after, bad things could happen.
The more I taste it, though, the more honey character and floral I get. And that hit of citrus, the orange comes through.
It's lovely. It's really nice. Lovely.
This is really good.
And now that we're talking about it more and I'm thinking about it more, I'm actually pushing my score up just mentally because.
So should we just keep talking and the score goes way up?
Well, I already had a set number based on your criteria.
Okay.
So based on your criteria, that's the number I'm going to give.
Okay. I think I'm ready. I have a number.
All right.
I'm debating between 2 still, but I think I'm just going to throw it out there and just deal with the consequences. You ready? 1, 2, 3, 9. I was debating between 8.5 and 9. And I went with 9 simply because I don't think that this can get much better than it is. I think a little bit more citrus peel might have improved the flavor ever so slightly, taken away just a touch of that bitter note. It's not horrible, but it is noticeable. So I'd like to see a little bit of that lessened. That's about it. And I'd like it to clear.
That said, we have tried fermenting citrus before with minimal.
Yeah, but we've had great luck with zest.
True.
Great luck with zest.
True.
Now, something I want to note too. This has nothing to do with my score. I mean, the scores speak for themselves. We pretty much said everything about them. This is a wonderful foundation to flavor from. And that's one great thing about making a simple mead like this. We can add dried fruit to it. You can add fresh fruit to it. You can add juice to it. Just remember, it might re-ferment if you do, except that our yeast tolerances, we're pretty close to the yeast tolerance on this one.
I just came out with an excellent idea.
Uh-oh.
You could use this as a base for a white sangria.
You certainly can. Yep. Just add a bunch of fruit into a bowl and pour some of this in, and you have a white sangria.
You could have the citrus. You could have melon. You could white grape.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways you could go with that. That actually sounds really nice.
Yeah.
And the advantage to doing it that way is you're getting all the fruity flavors without worrying about re-fermentation. Okay, so that's not even something you'd have to consider. But overall, very impressed with this mead. And this is probably going to replace my first mead as my go-to mead in the house because it's not as sweet. So for me, it's a better thing for me to be drinking. I could totally see putting this on an ice ball and treating it like I would, not a whiskey necessarily, but that thing. I think it would be better chilled than it is warm. This is warm, by the way. This is room temperature.
An interesting note is whenever Brian cooks something really wonderful, which is pretty much every day.
Twice a day.
am drawn to pair it with a
Yeah,
wine.
she always goes
And
in
for
the
some
room
reason,
and...
my brain doesn't include mead in there unless it's a really fruit forward mead, which is just a hang up of my own. But I think this particular mead is changing my mind.
This is the mead to drink with food, without a
And
doubt.
yeah. So now I'm going to be looking for this
Mm-hmm.
when Brian cooks.
So we're probably going to make like a 3-gallon batch of it
Yeah.
now. Hey, Bev, need more honey. No, actually, we still have 2 more things. I'm just kidding.
So, in summary, this is awesome. Make it. It's simple, it's easy, and it goes great with food.
And if you like this video, look up. There's another one up there. You might like that one too.